All right, we'll see how long this one is because this is more of a news update with a bit of a reaction blended into it because WWE loves to do this shit, don't they? WWE loves to just randomly cut motherfuckers with no warning and no announcement, and next thing you know, a whole bunch of your favorite guys are off TV. Now, they're up to their old game again, those guys are over at the Fed. So the reaction, the news today, as confirmed by multiple different sources, major WWE roster cuts continue. And this includes some crazy fucking names when you actually think about it. So, Sean Ross Sapp, among others, is, I believe, the first to report it. And I think this is, I didn't really read through this. I mostly pulled this up for the list. But the names on this are crazy. So, we're going to go through them one at a time here. Uncle Howdy, you may know better as Bo Dallas, depending on when the last time you watched WWE was. Half of you just said, holy fuck, Bo Dallas was in WWE still? Nikki Cross, who is awesome. I feel bad for her. Joe Gacy, another one. Erick Rowan, another one. And Dexter Lumis, another one. Now, the reason I jumped that list the way that I did is because some of you may know that makes up the Wyatt Six. So you read that correctly. All the members of the Wyatt Six gone from WWE. I'll be totally honest. I thought that was a limited gimmick that was created in response to a very unfortunate tragedy. I'm not particularly surprised to see that. However, some of the other names on this list are exceptionally surprising. Perhaps none larger than Kairi Sane. Now, like I mentioned in my previous video, have not watched WWE in some years. I am of the understanding that she was in the middle of a program when this release happened. So for some context, that would be like if AEW just randomly cut Chris Statlander. Okay, this is a big little name for their side over there that they just cut. Kairi Sane, no joke, tremendous athlete, tremendous wrestler. A lot of people are starting to speculate where she'll end up going. But that's a big one. But as we continue down the list here, that's not the only woman that was cut. Zoey Stark, who I believe, again, it's a name I know, not that I've really seen, was coming off an injury, coming back. Alba Fyre, I believe she's part of the Chelsea Green Secret Harvest or something like that. I think she was part of that, if I'm thinking of the right person, so that's pretty fucked up. And there's a lot of other names, but another one of the big women is Zelina Vega, who is obviously a well-established talent in WWE, going all the way back to when she showed up with Andrade in NXT, and her husband, Aleister Black. AEW fans may know as Malachi Black, indie fans know as Tommy End, just released from his second stint back in the Fed. Now, some of you know he was one of the people that was widely reported and regarded to be the guy at AEW who didn't want to take losses, along with Miro, who is Rusev now once again. He was reportedly one of those guys that didn't really want to eat pins and didn't really want to lose to dudes. And so that attitude eventually came to him getting released by his own accord. It was a mutual agreement. And he went back to WWE to be with Zelina Vega, and now here we are, with both of them no longer there. So, I say somewhat sarcastically, Malachi, Aleister, hope it was worth it. Hope it was worth it. Because at the end of the day, I do believe, all jokes aside, I do believe these guys should be independent contractors. They should be free to jump back and forth and work wherever they want, as often as they want. In a perfect world, we wouldn't even have these exclusive contracts unless we were going to W-2 these guys. But I digress, because that's never going to happen. This is, one of those things that can happen. This is one of those things that can happen when you do that. But, to keep going here, there's a lot of names. I'll be totally honest with you. I've never heard. I don't know who Dante Chen is. I don't really know who Andre Chase is. Like I said, I don't watch WWE. Another good group here. Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley, better known as the Motor City Machine Guns, who made their careers absolutely unquestionably in TNA. Did make one appearance for AEW on a pay-per-view. But now, there was a debate back in the day about whether Motor City Machine Guns would go to WWE or to AEW. They chose eventually WWE, and I get it. A lot of people who started wrestling back then, their ultimate goal was WWE, so I get it. But from what I understand, they really, really, really didn't do very much with them. And now here they are on the cutting room floor. Another name, Santos Escobar. Some of you might know better as King Cuerno if you watch Lucha Underground. Santos Escobar, another one of those guys who, you know, if I'm not mistaken, and again, memory here, work with me, was this not the gentleman who had a very public, like, will he, won't he re-sign with the company not all that long ago? And it was a big deal. If I'm correct, now he's gone. Apollo Crews, another guy that for some reason WWE just had no fucking idea what to do with. I know he had this weird, like, Prince gimmick, not Prince the singer, Prince like Nigeria, on the COVID era WWE. Could you imagine Apollo Crews as basically, I guess, Velveteen Dream in that context, only maybe with less creep. But yeah, Apollo Crews is another guy gone. And then a lot of this, as I understand, this is mostly like developmental names, and that's why I don't know them. Again, I'm not trying to come across as arrogant, but I don't watch WWE. So the big news for me is some of these names, like Nikki Cross, Aleister Black and Zelina Vega, Kairi Sane, obviously a big one. The Guns are a big one. Santos is a big one. Apollo Crews, I still think that guy has a lot to give to wrestling. We'll see what he does. But what's my reaction to this is, this is one of those things that WWE likes to do. WWE likes to release people. They like to cut people. They like to fire people. I don't know why. They always say it's budget or it's creative or whatever the case. But it seems like every year we get one of these lists of guys who get cut prematurely. And it reminds me a lot of the NFL because I'm literally sitting here watching the NFL draft as we discuss this. Reminds me a lot about the conversations that go on in there where, if you're one of these guys, hey, you signed a contract. You're expected to honor that. You need to show up to work every week and put in the matches and do whatever they tell you, and whatever they say, you got to go do it. And then there's no guarantee for you on the other side. They can cut you whenever they want, just like in football. They can cut you whenever they want. And there is no guarantee that they're going to honor that. So, like, for example, imagine you're one of these guys, right? You're one of these guys that maybe uprooted your life, moved to, where is it? Is it still at Full Sail? Is that still where they do NXT? You moved to Full Sail, you moved to Florida, you get down there, you're there for like 6 months, and now you're fired. Okay, cool, I just uprooted my whole life for this, and now here I am. And a lot of people would be out there saying like, oh, well, you got the opportunity to wrestle for WWE. You should be grateful. Yeah, dude, I can count on one hand the number of times I've been grateful to move for a job and then the job fires you and you're happy about it. I can count that on one hand. Let's be real here. Now, in addition, the other interesting question that always comes up when these kinds of discussions come up is, where will these people end up wrestling next? And largely, these days, there's really two options for most people. But to an extent here, there's some names that are interesting enough to maybe warrant me to actually talk about this. Because a lot of times, in my opinion, that this falls into the realm of fantasy booking, which I largely hate because most people aren't good at it. They think they're good at it, but they're not really good at it. It's one of those, the business went public and now everybody has a counterfeit booker's license type situation. But there's a couple of names on here that are interesting to me. I'll start with these two. Immediately when I went on Reddit and was reading through the thread, everybody and their mother was begging for Aleister to come back to AEW. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, it was reported that he was one of those guys from WWE that viewed AEW as a stepping stone to get back to WWE, just like Miro did, just like Andrade did, although I gotta give 1,000,001 props to Andrade. He seems to have come back with the right attitude and is killing it with his matches. I said from the beginning that AEW was a better spot for Andrade because Andrade is a wrestler more than he is an entertainer, although he is really stepping up the entertainment value if you've been checking out AEW lately. Aleister/Malachi was one of those guys who was pissy that he wasn't in a single story, even though I don't know. The House of Black was awesome. I actually thought the House of Black was underutilized in a lot of ways. But I look at him, what is it, 2 years now-ish removed from AEW, the last time he wrestled an AEW match, and I don't miss him there. I love that spooky shit, that satanic shit, that goth shit. I am all fucking about that. If you know anything about me, that shit is my bag, baby. But I don't want him back. I think him coming back takes a spot away from somebody who actually wants to be in AEW and has always wanted to be in AEW. I don't think there's anybody on TV that you take off TV right now to put Malachi Black back on TV. I don't think that you bring him back to be in a trio because he will be pouty about it again. I don't even think you bring him back with his wife because a lot of people are saying, well, if Zelina's there, then he'll want to be there. I have serious questions about an employee who only wants to work for me if their spouse is also there. Because it's kind of like why people don't hire you if you don't have a car and can't get to work and you're riding with somebody else who works at the job. Because what happens if they call off? Do you call off too because now you can't get there? If you're only going to work for me because your wife or your husband works for me, I don't want either one of you working for me. Because that is always going to be priority number one. And if, I don't book your wife or your husband, are you going to get pouty now? If your husband doesn't get to do the things he wants to do, are you as the wife going to do the same thing? Like, are you going to get pouty now and not do the things that you want? That's kind of what I'm saying. I just don't see a place in AEW for this couple right now. Is it possible? Absolutely. Tony Khan does not strike me as the type of guy who holds grudges, with a couple of notable exceptions. But I just don't see it. It's possible. I just don't see it. And at a personal viewer level, I don't really want it. If I had to take a guess, the next stop here is either going to be something like Major League Wrestling, because they just got some TV, or something like Maple Leaf Pro up in Canada, where maybe they'd have an opportunity to be a big name. But right now, I personally don't take anybody off TV to put these two on TV. Just don't do it. What about the Wyatt Six? Nikki Cross is somebody I could potentially see AEW being interested in. Nikki Cross is a hell of a worker. She's got a long resume of being a solid wrestler behind her. This is a name in AEW that I think could make a good addition to their women's division. Probably the same with these two, although these two strike me as less likely. I just don't know that. Maybe for like Ring of Honor, I could see Alba Fyre coming in. Zoey Stark, I'm not familiar enough to really know. It's sort of like I was unfamiliar with your game meme. That's kind of the situation here. Rowan is a guy who's worked in the past with AEW, but if I'm honest, I think Rowan's time's probably mostly past. He strikes me as a guy who might hit the indies for a couple of years and then transition into maybe either, a backstage role somewhere or to do something off screen. Maybe could have a little powwow in TNA, but I'm going to be honest with you. Beyond that, I just don't see it. I don't see Rowan going anywhere major. Now, Dexter Lumis is interesting. He, for those of you who may not remember, actually had a somewhat solid run back in 2014-13 era in TNA as Samuel Shaw. So that's a name I could potentially see maybe trying to go back and working a short time with TNA. Kairi Sane might be one of the only names on this list that I would say, Tony Khan, you need to make a phone call immediately. Kairi Sane is too good to pass up. She may also choose to just go back to Japan. If she does, I could see her going somewhere like Stardom and then maybe being on Forbidden Door as part of the AEW New Japan, CMLL Super Show. That is something I could totally see happening. Kairi Sane maybe wrestling someone like Mercedes or Tekla as part of that. Tekla. Now that I said that, oh boy. Now that I said that out loud, I think I might have just willed my Forbidden Door match for Tekla into existence, because the opportunity for Kairi Sane to wrestle Tekla on pay-per-view, so you could sign me right the fuck up for that. You could sign me right the fuck up for that. Now, this right here. My logical brain says to me, these guys go back and finish their careers in TNA. That's what my logical brain tells me will happen. But I could also realistically see these two ending up in AEW for two reasons. Number one, they almost ended up in AEW when they signed with WWE. And number two, AEW actually does need a few dedicated tag teams. One of my biggest criticisms, and I think one of my fairest criticisms of AEW television, is that Tony Khan, outside of his major teams, really struggles to book tag teams like tag teams and keep them together. A lot of times, what I see with AEW's tag teams, he will put them together. They'll have a couple of weeks as a team, and then all of a sudden they're either in a singles feud randomly for no reason, or they're teaming with someone who isn't their dedicated partner. And it's very bizarre. Like, outside of the Bucks and FTR and like the conglomeration, you know, there's just that level of consistency where you see a tag team as a tag team just often isn't there for some weird reason. Even with like something like the Brawling Birds, Alex Windsor and Jamie Hayter. You know, they team up, they have a couple tag matches, and all of a sudden Jamie Hayter's wrestling for the women's title, and now so is Alex Windsor, if I'm not mistaken. So it's like, let them be a tag team. Let them be a tag team for a little bit. It's okay. They can go for single stuff, but let them be a team for a little bit. Let us get attached to it. So my point being, I could potentially see these two heading for AEW if Tony Khan says, I need a shot in the arm for my tag division, especially after what I imagine is going to be a triple threat TLC feud between Edge and Christian, Cope and Christian, the Bucks and FTR, probably at All In, if I had to take a guess. It's just a little shot in the dark there. Someone like Santos Escobar, I could see maybe going back to Mexico. I'd probably not to AAA now that that's the WWE product, but maybe to like CMLL. And again, that's a name I could maybe see if that would have happened, being at Forbidden Door potentially. Apollo Crews, I have no idea. I really have no idea. I don't know if this guy's going to say, you know, like, I want to keep doing this. I want to make my chance, you know, and get out there and make a name and try to build my name back up. I don't know. And obviously most of this is developmental, so they're probably going to go back to the indies, or they're going to say, you know what, wrestling was fun. I'm going to go sell cars or whatever now. So, yeah, that's the story of the day. And probably the story of the week for wrestling is another Black Friday for WWE. Oh, why do they keep doing this? I will never know. It's not for me to know. So, it is what it is. Anyway, if you enjoyed that video, thank you for checking it out. Like I said, eventually we're going to work on some longer form content that isn't like screen reactions. But like I said last week, if I don't make videos, I'm not going to make videos. So I have to put content out there. If you liked it, though, I definitely want to see you back on the channel. Feel free to subscribe and drop a like on the video. Let me know in the comments down below the name that shocked you the most and where you think that person will go next, whether you agree with me or not. Until then, I am Jay. Thank you so much for checking out Zombie Head Radio today, and we'll see you next week with more wrestling content.